Everything that goes through your mind filters through your attitude. Right? There are people that if they won the lottery, you ask them how they're doing today. Not so great, man. I got a lot of taxes to pay. Okay? It's the filter through which you take in information from the world. If your attitude is positive, you're going to see things as positive as possible and encouraging. In the job of in-home selling, there is a lot that can bring you down. The word no. I need to think about it. We're not doing it today. We don't like you. Whatever it happens to be. What's that? I don't know, do they? Yeah. Afterwards when they call in. Well?
Let me ask you a question. As a manager, the question I have is, other than being positive and giving responses like this, how else do you affect or change somebody else's negative attitude?
The first thing, I think, is to be unconditionally positive when asked about yourself. Attitude is infectious. There's a transference of emotion that goes on when two people meet. When you have somebody, and maybe you had a bad day, but you talk to somebody, maybe it's your wife or your kid or whatever it happens to be, and you had a bad day and everything seems like it's going wrong. And you go home and you say hi to them, right, and they give you such an enthusiastic, wonderful response. How does that change you? Right? Almost instantly it turns you around. The other thing can happen where you're having a great day and you talk to somebody, your brother or whatever, how's it going? Man, everything sucks. Let me tell you about it. And how do you feel after that big discourse? All right. The other thing is that remind people, okay, when they're being negative. When I was a sales manager, one of the things that I used to do is when somebody came to me with a problem, that was one thing. With a problem, some solutions, try to solve something. When they would come to me to complain with a negative attitude, I would start quacking like a duck. Quack, 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 quack. And I go, what are you doing the first couple of times? Oh, nothing, go on. Well, everything sucks. So you got this lead, and quack, quack, quack. What are you doing? I said, my response to negativity. Come on, keep going. Eventually they got sick of it. Eventually got to the point where every time I would quack, everybody would look and say, who's being negative? Okay? It is an atmosphere that you create. And as a sales manager, it starts with the sales manager. It starts with calling people out on negativity and saying, hold on. Does everything really suck? Does it or doesn't it? What's good about it? Okay, let's focus on that. Those are the things that you can control, and we're going to talk about what you can control and what you can't control. But it starts with the way you approach it. If you are unconditionally positive in your attitude, other people will pick up on that. If you're the opposite, they'll pick up on that too. If you're neutral, circumstance, which is usually negative.
If I said to you, how are you? And you said, I'm fantastic. I might ask you, really? Well, what is it in your life that's fantastic? I don't think I would.
Okay, you would ask me? Okay. I would say, Neil, I've got to choose to be some way today. I'm choosing to be fantastic. Yeah, well, yeah. You give them a list or just tell them, because you know what? You can have that attitude, that positive attitude, even when things aren't going so well. We've all heard the stories about, the rags to riches story. Somebody came out of nothing, built up a tremendous, career. John D. Rockefeller being one of them. Okay, we've all heard about that. But why did he get to that point? Because his attitude was never affected by the conditions of his world. He set a goal, maintained a positive attitude, worked toward that, and then became worth $318 billion, 1% of our gross domestic product in this country. Why? Goals and attitude. We all can have them. It doesn't have to do anything to do with advantages or opportunities or anything like that. You know where you're going, and you don't let anything knock you off that, and attitude allows you to do that. The attitude is negative, right? Again, you're going to see things as negative, unlikely, hopeless, discouraging. That's the person that wins the lottery and complains about the taxes. There's a story of two twins. One of them is really optimistic and positive, and the other one is really pessimistic and negative. And the parents kind of want to even them out because they got this one that's all excited and optimistic, this other one who's always down and pessimistic. So they decide that they're going to do something to fix this. So they go to a psychologist and then they make a recommendation. What they end up doing is both of the kids want a pony. So they put the negative, the pessimistic kid in a room with a pony. He starts crying. Parents come in and say, what's wrong? And he says, ponies poop. Eh. They go into the other room. Now the other kid, the optimistic one that they want to bring down a notch, they put him in a room full of pony poop. But they don't hear anything, and they're expecting him to be, whatever. They go in and they say, what's going on? And they see him just furiously digging. They said, what are you doing? He said, with all this pony poop in here, there's got to be a pony somewhere. Okay? It's about the choices that we make. How you see things motivates behavior. How you see things, your attitude motivates behavior. And it's only behavior that creates outcome. Want to be a great salesperson? Do the great salesperson things. Right? Attitude is a choice. You can make it or allow it to be made for you. And if it's made for you, it's almost always made for you negatively. That's a guy by the name of Jack Welch. Heard of him? Okay, what did he do? GE, right? CEO of the century, according to CEO magazine. Very successful in what he did. In some ways revolutionary, in other ways just a great decision maker. Control your destiny or somebody else will. It's the choice you have. You control it or the world controls it. It's a choice, just like your attitude. Your destiny is created by your attitude. I had a conversation at the break with somebody about this particular issue, and it's control. This relates directly to attitude and is specifically important for somebody in the sales profession. You have this big thing right here, this red thing. That is what's uncontrollable. You could call it a condition. The sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. You want to change that? You can't. You have things that are partially controllable, and then you have things that are controllable. Okay? Part of the reason that we get frustrated with our attitude, and part of the reason that you say that if you don't consciously choose a positive attitude, a negative one will be chosen for you, is because so many people spend so much of their time worrying about, concerned with, and trying to change what cannot be changed. First of all, it's unproductive. If you can't change something, how hard do you have to work to change it? You can't, right? But what if I work even harder than that? Okay, but what if I double my efforts? You're wasting your time. You're absolutely right. The study that was done of successful people, highly successful people, and there's been a lot of research done on how do we emulate these people? Right? How do we become successful? They found was that most people spend about 80% of their time focused on things that they cannot control. How bad is that for your attitude? As a salesperson, what's in the red that we often focus on that we complain about? What's that? The leads, right? It's the leads. Well, if you give me 100 leads, this many are not going to be home, this many are not going to like you, and this many have something that they want to have done that we couldn't have waited out on the phone because it was too complex, we didn't know, or weren't communicating properly. Right? That's just the way it is. It's the nature of it. Right? So to a certain extent, that's uncontrollable from our perspective. Right? We've got a great appointment center who is setting these appointments and doing these confirmations. Right? But there's some things that can't come out in a phone call. You'd be qualifying somebody for a half hour and they'd hang up and call somebody else. Right? We understand that. So every bit of focus that we spend on, they weren't home. We couldn't even do it. That's killing your attitude. You have the things that are partially controllable. Okay? Most people spend about 10% of their time on that and only 10% of times on things you actually can control. If I work really hard on something that's controllable, can I change it? Absolutely, right? So you have a choice. The negative attitude people normally find themselves focused here. Or people with positive attitudes are working on the things that they can control. So, the leads, we all run them. Right? What can you control about your sales opportunities? What's that? Your attitude, right? You can control improve your level of skill. Right? How you build rapport with customers, how you make a great entry, how you do needs assessment, how you present product, how you ask commitments and tie downs, how you present price, how you pre-close, how you close, all of those things you can improve upon. So a successful person will spend 80-90% of their time on those things and understand that some things go my way, some things don't, some customers are home, sometimes we can't do the job. But I won't let that affect me because I know every day I'm getting better at the things I can't control. And the law of averages are that as I run these appointments, I'm going to have an opportunity to sell a lot of people, make a lot of people happy, and do that in a way that's profitable for the company. You ever hear the expression, life's out of control? You ever think about what that really means? Someone whose life is out of control means they're focusing on things that are out of their control. You say that when things get really bad. Life's just out of control. If you look at those people about which you would say that, chances are they're focused 99% on things they can't control, obsessed with things that they cannot change. So yes, their life is out of control. So what's the flip side of that? A life that's in control. Not that you can control everything, but your focus is on what you can improve and what you can change. Success, by and large, comes from an advantage gained by focusing your time and energy on the controllable. Neil, if you focus 90% of your time here, and I focus 90% of my time here, who wins in the long term? Absolutely. Even if you work harder than me, really, really hard, any effort spent here is better than any effort spent there.
People think of success as monetary. Isn't there more than monetary ways of measuring success?
Absolutely there is. We often use money because it's easy and it's quantifiable. For the same reasons that your customers may say, well, just what's the price? What's the price? Because that's something everybody can relate to because it's a number, it's a dollars. We can all reference that from wherever we are. I would say success is more about other things than it is about money, by far. And in these examples, wherever I would use the term money, you could substitute anything else, whether it's free time, time with family, leisure, activities, whatever it happens to be. Success is something we all have to define for ourselves. So the point of this is not how do we all become millionaires next year. The point is if that's what you want, great, get that. If something else to you is successful, get that instead. Have I heard that, it's not that rich people don't have problems. It's just usually they have better problems and drive better cars on the way to solve the problems. So it is not exclusively about money. And if I default to that more times than not, it's just a habit, it's just something